magical treats taste great, but justice and equality taste better. To combat hate, all ad revenue from my HB Kitchen will be donated to trans and LGBTQ charities. Thank you for supporting the kitchen and helping make the world a better place. Mischief managed. Hello witches, wizards, and those who have just escaped from Azkaban. Welcome back to my Harry Potter Kitchen, the YouTube series where we're baking our way through the Harry Potter books, creating recipes for every item of food and drink that we find inside. This week we reached 10 recipes from the Prisoner of Azkaban and over 6,000 subscribers here on YouTube. So thank you so much to everyone for your support and for joining this wild foodie journey as we whiz our way through the wizarding world. If you're new to the kitchen and you haven't subscribed yet, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the notification bell so you get an alert every Magic Monday when there's a brand new video. Today's video, however, is extra special. You might notice a little change of my clothes. I'm rocking this Cauldron Shop t-shirt who raise money for Mermaids, the UK trans charity, and that means today we're also announcing the next charity to receive a donation from our Patronus fund, where we're taking all of the ad revenue from my Harry Potter Kitchen and donating it to LGBTQ and trans charities. Here's who's up next. This time we are donating £100 to Albert Kennedy Trust, as nominated by Miki. Albert Kennedy Trust are the LGBTQ+ youth homelessness charity who work with young people who are currently struggling with their housing situation or living in hostile environments. I hope this donation helps with the incredible work that you do. Thank you so much for helping me bake the world a better place. If you have a favourite trans charity that you'd like to nominate for an upcoming Patronus Fund donation, then all of the details can be found on my blog, and I'll leave a link for that down below in the description. I cannot wait to keep on cooking through this book and helping to raise money for some great causes. Before we get to next week's recipe though, let's have a quick recap on the last 10. In chapter 1 of The Prisoner of Azkaban, we found our first recipe as one of the essays, a particularly nasty one, about shrinking potions. We serve this up as a ginger, fig, and prune smoothie that would definitely put Professor Snape to shame. It was super easy to make and tasted even better. Later on in chapter 1 we also saw, but he didn't realise Fred and George had put beetles in his soup. So we served up a magical fish soup with some pasta beetles inside. This fish soup was packed full of fresh ingredients, so as well as getting all of the flavour, you also get a nice health kick. Next, in chapter 2, we found he helped himself to a piece of toast. So instead of just popping bread into the toaster, I decided to whip up a loaf of bread that had a hidden lightning bolt inside. It looks impressive, but it's actually pretty easy to make, so I walked you through step by step. Later on in chapter 2, we saw Uncle Vernon drained his teacup. We had tackled tea earlier on in the Philosopher's Stone, so this time I decided to create an edible teacup that was Earl Grey tea flavoured. Of course, you can't have tea in the Prisoner of Azkaban without that iconic scene, so I decided to decorate the Grim inside ours. Next up in chapter 2, we saw a box of dog biscuits for Harry. So for episode 5, I decided to create some dog biscuits that were human friendly. These were a twist on the British classic biscuit, the Bourbon. 2 layers of chocolate biscuit sandwiched together with a rich, dark chocolate buttercream. The Grim made a return in this recipe, and it was seriously good. Recipe 6 was also in chapter 2 when we saw Aunt Marge had been supplied with tea and fruitcake. We had already tackled tea, so I focused on the fruitcake element but made it an Earl Grey tea flavoured sponge. We topped it off with some Swiss meringue buttercream and a selection of fruits inspired by the Hogwarts houses. Which slice are you going to go for? Recipe 7 also came from chapter 2 when we saw Aunt Marge reach for her glass of wine. I didn't quite have enough time to make an actual bottle of wine, so we focused on a different sweet treat that has wine in the name. Wine gums. They're a British classic sweet that are super easy to make, and we transform them into 4 different colours and flavours inspired by our Hogwarts houses. The Hogwarts house magic continued in chapter 2 when we saw they got all the way through the soup and the salmon. For this recipe I baked some salmon fillets, but to add in that magic each one was topped with a crumb topping inspired by our Hogwarts houses. Gryffindor had sun-dried tomatoes, Hufflepuff had curry, Slytherin had pesto, and Ravenclaw had olives. We also found recipe 9 in chapter 2 when we found, during the lemon meringue pie, Uncle Vernon bored them all. I had so much fun transforming this iconic dessert into something magical. We took the sweet short crust pastry, zesty lemon curd, and fluffy Swiss meringue buttercream to make a golden snitch. Once the wings are on, this dessert was sure to fly off the table. And finally this week for recipe 10, also in chapter 2, we saw Then Aunt Petunia Made Coffee. We brought together the Muggle world's most famous iced coffee drink with the Wizarding world's favourite drink and created the Butterbeer Frappuccino. It only takes a few minutes to prepare your homemade butterscotch sauce for Butterbeer, and then only a few seconds to transform that into your Butterbeer Frappuccino. And of course, for that true Starbucks look, we topped it off with lots of cream and extra sauce. So there you go, 10 magical recipes from Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. There is so much more on the way. As I mentioned, this is going to be our biggest series yet. So if you don't want to miss any of those Harry Potter recipes, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the notification bell, and you'll get an alert next Magic Monday when there is a brand new recipe. Remember, you can also nominate a trans charity to receive an upcoming donation. All of the details are on my blog, and I'll leave the link down below. That's all for now. I'll see you next week.